All right, hello everyone, and welcome to our Lumio Palooza global event, where we are providing fun, fresh PD opportunities, highlighting how Lumio can provide a fluid workflow that benefits teachers and students. We will show you how to create lessons and activities focused on a variety of topics, including classroom instructional strategies. My name is Kelly Campbell, and I'm a professional development specialist for SMART, and I cover the Central United States. This webinar, Getting Started with Lumio, features Michelle Grinberg, a professional development specialist for the Western United States located in Arizona. We encourage participation. If you have any questions, please ask them in the chat box during the presentation, and we'll either integrate them into the flow or hold them to be answered at the end of during our Q&A period. We'll be sharing resources from today's webinar in the chat. Also, for participating today, a certificate will be provided after you complete a brief survey. Today's session is being recorded, and you will receive the recording via email early next week. We would love for you to share what you have learned from this session on social media, along with the graphic that I'm going to put in the chat, and tag @Lumio Social, hashtag Lumio Challenge, and hashtag Lumio Palooza to be entered to win a gift card. At this point, I'm going to turn things over to Michelle so that we can dive into today's webinar, Getting Started with Lumio.
Thanks, Kelly. Hey, everybody. I'm seeing some cool places in the chat over here. Like Kelly said, my name's Michelle. At work, I go by Mish because there's two of us. If you ever see me on socials, I am Mish or Michelle, whatever you prefer. I'm the Professional Development Specialist here at SMART with Western US and Canada. I live in Arizona, but I just moved here from Chicago, where I was a teacher for Chicago Public Schools. I think I saw someone in the comments from Chicago as well. Shout out to you, someone from Corpus Christi. I'm headed over there to do some Lumio training next week. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. If this is your first time with Lumio, we're so excited that you're here. We hope that you had a great day of PD. Kelly is going to drop into the chat my join link, but you can also join by going to hellosmart.com. You're going to join as a guest and then use my code 181461. I'm going to have you all join as students first to interact with Lumio, see what your students experience, and then we're going to toggle into teacher mode and get to create a little bit. Hey, Mitzi, remember when Kelly and I were out with you? That was such a good time. Victoria, you were just in Chicago this summer. How humid was it? Oh my gosh. Chicago in the summer is something different. Nice to see you, Mitzi. So the join link is in the chat. You can either click on that link directly, or you can go in your browser, go to hellosmart.com, and then 181461. Victoria, I'm glad it was only humid there for one day. I was there a few weeks ago, and the humidity in Chicago was like 80%. It was awful. Yep. It was 80% humidity. It was so bad. I'm so glad to be in Arizona with the dry heat. All right, looks like I've got about 16 of you joined in here. I'm going to wait one more minute here. Again, you can go to hellosmart.com and type in my code 181461, or you can go to the link that Kelly put in the chat. All right, I've got 26, 27 of you. I'm going to go ahead and move on. What I'll do is I'm going to put this show class ID, and what you'll see here now is my ID is on the bottom of the screen. So if you're late joining in, you can still go to HelloSmart, and then my code is going to stay right there. All right, if this is your first time with Lumio, the activity that I have here is called a Shout It Out. I love Shout It Out. It is one of my favorite features in Lumio. It really gives a different entry point for students to participate in a discussion without having to raise their hand. Whether they're younger and they're shy and they prefer not to participate that way, or they're an older student and we know they don't really want to raise their hand, but we know they know the answer, we know they want to participate, or we as a teacher would like to see them participate, this is a really great way to have them do so. So I've got 3 questions here. Where are you from? What do you teach? And then if you attended other Lumio Palooza sessions today, what's your favorite thing you learned today? Awesome. So a couple of things here on a shout out page. As you see here on my screen, if you're in the Zoom call where I'm sharing my screen as the teacher, those responses are coming in quite small. What I can do is click on them this way. I just clicked on just a random person's response, and then I get these arrows in the bottom right corner, and I can toggle through all of your responses. We've got people from all over: Orlando, Calgary, Raleigh, Kansas, Arlington, Virginia, Texas, sped resource teacher, amazing. Texas. Let's see, what do we all teach? I'm sure we've got a big variety in here. We've got a big group. Kindergarten, I was a kindergarten teacher. Fourth grade, first grade, French 4th through 8th, credit recovery and leather crafting. Ooh, that's a fun class to teach. Fifth grade ELA and social studies this year. Spent last 14 years teaching social studies. Awesome. And I'm curious, what are some favorite things that we've learned today? And then I'm going to show you a couple classroom management things that you can do from a shouted out screen. Let's see. This is your first session. Well, welcome to Lumio Palooza. You're joining late in the day. We are all attending many today, so we're super happy that you're here. Hope to answer this later. Okay. How to use the whole class whiteboard. Thanks, Mish. You're welcome. Different vocab and reading strategies. This is your first session. Join the engaging readers later today. Can't wait for the replay. I'm super pumped to watch some of the recordings that I also missed today. So just a little reminder, any sessions that you missed, you will get those recordings sent to you. Immersive reader, unrelated to Lumio, histamine and food, read aloud ideas, ways to differentiate learning for students. I love that. All right, so a couple of different things here to do from a shouted out screen. So as you saw here, I was going through your responses. Now let's just say I'm working with my students. We're all adults, but let's just say I was with my students and someone wrote something inappropriate. Sometimes it's bound to happen. It's super easy to just select an answer here, and then I can drag it into the trash can in the top left corner. So I'm not going to do that, but there is how you would do it. It's very simple. And then earlier I was saying that a shout out is a really great way to get students to participate. Maybe those students that aren't so inclined to talk out loud, this is a really great option for them to submit their responses non-verbally. What you can do here is I'm going to go in my settings gear and I'm going to toggle off display names. And you'll see here, all of you turned into these little icons. So on the screen, it appears anonymous, but I still get my legend so I can see who submitted what responses. But again, that just really helps those students that maybe aren't going to be as inclined to raise their hand. Again, this was called a shout it out. Awesome. So what exactly is Lumio? So with Lumio, we're teachers, we're busy. We don't want to recreate the wheel, right? So how do we start using Lumio? You start with something that you already have, whether that be a Google Slides lesson that you have, a PowerPoint, something that you made in Canva, or even a blank page. Maybe this is your first time, you don't have a lesson ready and you just want to start totally from scratch. So you start with one of those things, something that you already have or a blank page, then you're going to enhance them. This is really great because we've got all ready-made templates for you based on game-based activities. We've got assessment tools, ready-made resources such as graphic organizers and manipulatives, and then we can also do some instructional audio. Now, these are all things I'm going to show you in just a few minutes here. And then we're going to figure out how to now take these things and engage our students. So instead of just having a Google Slides lesson that we're just talking at our students, now we're going to have them engage with our lesson. So we're going to take those activities we made, we're going to convert them into activities, individual handouts, group workspaces, whole class whiteboards. We're also integrated with Desmos and FET for any math or science teachers that are in here. And then we're going to think about different ways to deliver our lessons. You all just did a shout it out with me. There's different teachable moments, and I'm going to walk through some of these things here with you now. Yes, we are integrated with FET, and that is something that I will show you when we get into the creation process. All right, so as I mentioned, here are all the things that you can do in Lumio. The goal of Lumio is that you don't want to be a teacher that's standing up at your screen and you've got a tab with YouTube and Kahoot and quizzes and your Google Slides and all these different tabs. You turn your back to your students and you lose them because something got logged out or one tab was missing. The idea is now in Lumio, all these things live together in one file. So what you'll see here is I'm going to turn this page. I'm going to go to my little people here. And I'm going to turn this page into a whole class whiteboard. What that means is that now we all have editing access to this page. And what I would like everyone to do is my fireflies up here, they're infinitely cloned, which means we can all take and drag. So you'll just click on it and drag it. I would love for you all to drag it to one or two of these boxes that you're wondering about, that you'd like to explore a little bit more of during our time together today. So you can take a firefly and then drag it over to an area that you'd like to talk more about. Awesome. As you're moving those around here, a couple of things that I want to shout out from a whole class whiteboard screen for classroom management purposes is as you're moving those around, let's just say again, I've got a couple of students, maybe they're losing control a little bit, and I'd like to regroup my students. In the top right corner of my screen, I have this everyone can edit button. When I toggle it off, you'll see now on your screen, you can't edit my page anymore. With my students, I can now regroup, remind them what our purpose is here, remind them what we're doing. And then when I'm ready, I'm going to turn editing access back on. So very easy to quickly take that away from my students, remind them what we're doing, turn it back on. And then one other thing I can do here is on my screen, if you're in the Zoom call, you'll see that all of your fireflies are anonymous. I can click on one here. I'm just going to click on this guy. And I can see that it was Stephanie that put that one there. So I can really quickly go check who engaged with the screen and see where they ended up. All right. So I'm going to take you all through a demo lesson. I have a, Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, third grade level weathering and erosion?
Yes, third grade.
Awesome. I have a third grade science lesson. I'm going to take you through a demo of what your students can experience through Lumio, and then we're going to have some time together to build. So one of the activities that we have built into Lumio is called Label Reveal. All right, so one of my favorite things to do as a teacher is I like to combine technology and traditional classroom practices, especially when I'm doing science. I like for my students to make predictions about the next topic that we're going to learn. So here I brought this picture and I have these labels. So my students would come in, and you can do this on your screen as well. You can open up all these labels here. And what I did here was I gave them some guided questions. So maybe this is an entry ticket. As they come in for science time, I have this picture pulled up and I want them to think about, what do they think weathering and erosion is? What do you notice about the landscape? And I want them to take notes of this in their notebook. So again, I'm trying to combine some traditional classroom practices with some technology in the classroom as well. And then this will be their intro, their entry ticket to our science lesson. All right. So after that, I would go into a YouTube video. We all know and we love YouTube. It's great for starting out a mini lesson. What's great about having Lumio, or having YouTube in your Lumio lesson is it actually will come in ad-free. So as I click play here, you'll see that there is not an ad in the beginning. There's no ad breaks throughout, which is really, really great for our students. We're filtering out anything that we don't want them to see. After my intro video here, I brought in a PDF. Now, there's a few things I want to tell you about this PDF document here. First things first is, again, in the beginning, I said that we're teachers, we're busy, we don't want to recreate the wheel, but also if you've been teaching for a few years, you have your materials that you already know, you already love them. We don't want you to have to start fresh. So here is a PDF that I have. It's an article that maybe I've used year over year about weathering and erosion. A few things I can do here is I can zoom it in. It's on the big screen. I can scroll. As I write on my screen and take notes, you'll be able to do that there. But it gets better. Right on the left side of the screen here, I have this little book with that audio icon on it. That's called Immersive Reader. When I click on it, it highlights all the text on my screen. I'm just going to go ahead and click on this paragraph. It's now going to open this paragraph for me. And this is going to be really great for our struggling readers, our ELL students. So I have this paragraph here. Let's look at all the different things that I can do. I can change my text size. I can decrease or increase my spacing. I can change my font. If I have any primary teachers in here, we're going to switch to Comic Sans because we get that what I call the right A. If you have any students that struggle with dyslexia, you can change the screen to be blue. That is easier for their eyes to process. There's other colors you can do as well. In our grammar options, you can break words apart by syllable. You can identify parts of speech, and you can change those colors. If you've got an anchor chart in your classroom and verbs are blue, you can change that out as well. And then here is my favorite part as a former kindergarten teacher. You can do a line focus, which I love to help the students focus on where they're at in their reading. You've got your picture dictionary. So if I click on a picture or on a word, it works about, I would say, use your best judgment, but here I clicked on the word rain. I get a few pictures of rain. I can read just that one word.
Rains.
Coming back here, and this is another really great part, translate language. Look at how many different languages there are in here. I'm even going to call out Spanish because we've got 3 different versions of Spanish. So now once I select Spanish, I'm going to go with Mexico. You can change by word or by document. So when I go by document, now I can have my ELL student perhaps read the whole passage in Spanish, go back to English, make sure that they understood. Maybe they got to a part that they'd like to go back to Spanish. They can toggle back and forth between the two. Last but not least, I've got my voice settings. I can change the speed as well as the gender. So now when I click play, let's go to original.
Rains, they are washed away into streams. If it does not.
So that is immersive reader. Again, all I had here was I had this PDF document and I clicked on my little book here. And when we're creating, I will show you how to make sure that you've got that on. A couple of things I want to tell you about Immersive Reader is it's going to work on any typed text on a screen, and it'll also work on a PDF, but the PDF has to be a real PDF. And what I mean by that is if you import a PDF into your Lumio and your Immersive Reader button isn't working, unfortunately, it means whoever created that PDF, it's actually a screenshot. Immersive Reader will not read text in an image, a screenshot, or a JPEG, only if it's a true PDF or written text on your screen. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on here. Again, with this PDF, another great way for us to take notes. My notes now will save into my file. So if I want to revisit this next week as we keep on with science class, I'll have all of this to reference with my students the following week. Awesome. Another thing I mentioned, we have our templates. We've got 21 different graphic organizers that are pre-made for you. So I went ahead and just grabbed a Venn diagram, and then I typed some text on there, and I'm having my students participate in this. I made this again into a whole class whiteboard so that all of you do have editing access. I'll tell my students a couple of things that you can do from this screen. You can grab the writing tool. You can type. What you'll do is you'll click on the A, then you'll click on the screen, and then you can type. You can also go to the gallery where you've got different stickers and you've got Bing Safe Search as well. So after my students did their mini lesson, we had our PDF document, we had our class discussion, we watched our YouTube video. Now I'm ready for my students to compare and contrast weathering and erosion. I love that someone put smaller rocks. Looks like someone's trying to bring in an image. My internet is a little slow today, so it's loading. Awesome. Thanks everyone for trying to participate in here. I do appreciate that. Someone brought in a picture. I absolutely love that. So this is a really great way for my students now to collaborate. Again, we're taking these notes, we're having this discussion, and it's all safe for us. So when my students go back and they need to study, or tomorrow when we revisit this topic, I can open up these great notes that we took, and it all lives in this file for me. Kelly, how are we doing? Any questions I need to stop and answer?
Nope, we've got everything covered in the chat so far.
Thanks, Kelly. All right, so now I love to do a little check for understanding. So gamifying learning makes learning a little bit more interesting for our students. And as the teacher, it gives me some insight into how they're understanding the concept that I'm teaching. Can I move on, or do I need to go back and revisit? So what I've done here is I have weathering and erosion. This is one of our games called a super sort. And I'll show you all of our games in just a few minutes here. But you'll see that if a student gets the wrong answer, it shoots back, and the right answer disappears. So I can always model my activity. And then I can also go to view progress. So I can see here on this screen that I have 31 students that haven't started yet. I've got 23 that are in progress, 0 completed. I can take a look at some general things here, but here's where it gets really interesting. I have this button right here that says student progress. Now, when I click on it, it's always going to tell me, just in case I have this up on the board in front of my students, hey, you're about to show student names and scores. Are you sure you want to continue? Since we're all adults, I'm going to go ahead and show student progress. And if you're getting all the wrong answers, that's okay. I don't expect you to remember learning about this in 3rd grade. But now I have my dashboard here and I can take a look at how everyone is doing. Tyler, is it okay if I click on yours? Tell me in the chat if it's okay if I open yours up. Thank you. So if I click on Tyler's, I'll get an itemized report here, which I love. So let's just say Tyler was having a day and he kept guessing and guessing the wrong answer. It would actually itemize that for me. So right away as a teacher, I know I need to go talk to Tyler. Tyler doesn't know because, or Tyler is getting this because he maybe doesn't know. He's guessing, or maybe he's having a day and I just need to have a quick conversation with him. He then has the opportunity to keep on working. But now right away, I can see that he got about 50% on his first attempt. I think Tyler needs to keep practicing. He's maybe not quite ready to move on. I see how much time he spent on it, which also is a good reflective piece for me because if he worked too fast, maybe he just didn't put enough thought into it. So I get lots of insight to do before I move on. All right, so after we did a quick check for understanding, maybe I did a hands-on experiment with my students then in class. Now, of course, I'm ready for my assessment. So response is our version of a quiz, which is really great. So as I click on start for class, again, if you guys get all the wrong answers, that is totally okay. But if you could just start answering those questions, I'll show you what those live results could look like. What I can also do as the teacher is if I click on show questions, I can start to go through this as the class, maybe review those questions before I have my students work independently. So you see we've got a short answer question here, makes a word cloud. We've got a true or false. And then again, I see right away how my students are answering. So I get that feedback immediately if I need to stop and revisit or if they're doing it and we can move on. We've got multiple choice, all different kinds of answers here. So if I go back to my overview here, I can see how my students are doing instead of asking, hey, is everyone done? I get this feedback right here. Looks like 20% of my questions have been answered. I'm going to give you all a couple more seconds here to engage with the quiz before I show you the next bit. Trina, physics. Physics was definitely a stronger science for me. I think physics just makes a lot of sense in my brain. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and end my activity just for time's sake. And you'll see a couple things here. So now I can go through all these questions again. I love the word cloud. We can go through as a class and review. It looks like I had about 50% of my students here get the right answer, 50% not. So again, right away as a teacher, I know we need to review this. But then the best part is I get this export results button right here. If you do response, which again is our version of a quiz, if you do response within Lumio, it exports the results for you into an Excel sheet. It grades it. It gives you itemized by student, itemized by question, percent they got correct, numbers they got incorrect. So it takes a lot of that grading time away from us as teachers, which I know we all love. All right, I'm going to have you guys stop being my students now for just a second here. We're going to get to engage and practice using Lumio. So as I mentioned earlier, we do have 12 different games. I'm going to shout out 3 games that I really love specifically for collecting data to do a quick check for understanding, anything like that. So on the left side of my screen here, I've got this one button here where it's the heart, the plus sign, the little image, and a circle. We call that button the gallery. Something new that was just added to the gallery are these stickers, which I love. They're kind of like little emojis. I'm going to just grab this heart, bring it out to my screen here, get my arrow, and I'm going to infinitely clone it. But before I do, let me make it a little smaller. So just as those fireflies were infinitely cloned before, now my heart is as well. So 3 games that I love to use specifically to take data to do a check for understanding are the match 'em up game, the rank order, and the super sort. So you guys all participated in the super sort when I had you sort those definitions into weathering and erosion. So those are three really easy things that you can add into an existing Google slide or PowerPoint that you already had to gamify your learning and making it a little bit more engaging, but for you as a teacher to collect a quick little data. All right, so here is what we're gonna do now. What I'm gonna have you all do is log out of being a student in my class. So you have on the top left of your screen, the three little lines, the hamburger, and you'll have a button that says leave class. What I'm going to have you do now is log into Lumio. If you've logged into Lumio before, this step will just take you a second here. If this is your first time, just quickly make an account. It can be with your personal email address or with your school email address. It is free to join. So go ahead and sign in as a teacher. When you're ready, if you could give me a shout in the chat, say, hey, I'm ready.
If your screen is asking you for a class code, go ahead and scroll below that in little tiny blue letters. You're going to see, are you a teacher? And you can select from there to get to the correct login.
All right, looks like a good chunk of us are logged in. If you're not yet, no worries. I'm going to hop out here and go into creation mode with you. So on your screen here, you have this new button. When you click on that new button, here are all those things that I mentioned that you can start with a Lumio lesson. So you can start by importing something that you already have, or we can start with a blank page. What I would love for all of us to do together right now is build a game. All right, so down here, we've got this button here that says game-based activities. If this is your first time in Lumio, all of these little graduation caps, anytime you see them, all you'll have to do is just click on that graduation cap and it gives you a quick little video for an idea of what you can do with that game. For right now, I'm going to go ahead and I'll build a match 'em up. And you can build the same game that I'm building, or you can choose a different game and work alongside with me. But this is what our game templates look like. They're very simple. They take about just a couple of minutes to import your own content into. So I'm doing a match 'em up and I'm going to do letter sounds. Maybe I'll do D, B, F, and C. And then you'll see that you can either do text or images. So I'm going to go ahead, since I have letters on this side. On this side, I'm actually going to bring in some pictures. And I always like to add the word clip art because I like the pictures I get with it. We'll do this one. So I've got dog for D. Let's do ball. Got B for ball. And again, you can make this for your own content. So if you're a math teacher, maybe you're matching an equation with the answer. If you're an ELA teacher, maybe you're matching definitions and terms. If I can ask some of you, maybe drop some more ideas in the chat. If anyone is having a writer's block, let's give some ideas in the chat. And we'll do a cat clip art. Element, symbol, and name. Love that. Oh, someone's doing a word search for spelling list, digraphs, or glued sounds. Yes. All right, so on my screen here, I'm just going to do 4 examples for time's sake. I have a bunch of different letters. I've got them matched up to their pictures. And then you'll see here on the right, I have an option to check answers instantly or when prompted. Instantly means when I match them, if it's wrong, it'll shoot back right away. Or if I select the when prompted option, it'll make me complete the whole game first, and then it'll tell me how I did. I like instant feedback. My cat here isn't working. I can't move on yet to my next screen because it won't let me delete it. I'll give you guys all a second to try that out while my screen loads. It looks like it worked. Yeah. No worries if yours is still loading. It looks like mine is a little frozen. I've had some crazy internet issues today. I'm going to do a super sort, see if that loads faster for me. I'm going to do letters. We'll do A, B, C, and D. And then we'll do numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I can pick a background. I can pick any that we already have pre-made. Some of them are interactive, like the rock stars, and you get the right answer, they jam out. Or I can also bring in my own background, something that maybe is more fitting. Like for that weathering and erosion one, I actually brought in a picture of waves, I think. But for this game, I think I'll just bring in, let's see. I do like the rock concert. And that's it. My game is already built. When it's done loading. What other games did y'all build? Can you tell me in the chat what other games did we build? I'd love to know. And then I'm going to show you how you can share your games. I agree, Trina. There's too many of us creating in Lumio. That's probably what it is. Math terms to symbols. Oh, Stephanie, I'm so sorry to hear that. I hope that you're still able to follow along with us on the screen. You'll also get a recording of the session so that you can play around with it later on. Super sort on types of bonding, U.S. presidents to related wars and events. That's a good one. All right, so one thing I'm going to show you, I just hope that my lesson here starts to work, is I want to show you how to then share your lesson. I'm going to start explaining it and then hopefully I can show you in a second. But if you go ahead in the top left and click on Finish Editing, you'll come back to your library screen of your Lumio account. So leave your editing page. And then when you see your lesson in your library, the bottom right corner of your lesson is going to have 3 dots on it. If you click on those 3 dots, there's a button that's going to say Share. And you'll get 2 different share links. The top one is a teacher share link, and that is going to be one that you'll share with fellow teachers. And what'll happen when you share a teacher share link is it'll actually make them their own copy. So if they start editing anything in that file, that's theirs. It does not touch yours. All right. That bottom one is a student share link. The student share link is one that you'd share if it's an asynchronous activity. Here's my game. All right, I'm going to show you what I was just talking about here. So if you came back to be in your library, you've got your 3 dots, share link. Again, this top share link is to be able to share out with other teachers. It makes them their own copy. Or this bottom one is a student share link. All right, I want to give you guys a few more minutes to build while Kelly and I are here so that you can ask questions. So what I'll do is I'm going to put this up on my screen here. Give me 1 second. Here's a couple of challenges for you. We've got a mild, medium, and a spicy. So we did just build a game together. So now I want you to go ahead and try to build something else. Bring in a graphic organizer, add text to it, or convert it to an activity. And I'll show you how to convert a graphic organizer into an activity in just a moment. But I want to give you guys an idea of a few different things that you can do, because I want to give you a few more minutes to practice while Kelly and I are still here. So when you're in your editing screen, that new button on the home page is the same as this little plus button when you're in editing mode. So all those same options will come up here. So I'm going to go down to my graphic organizers. And I'm going to come down to the brainstorming web. And all I'll do here is the graphic organizer is ready for me. Maybe we're going to brainstorm. I don't know. I keep leaning on science class today. So maybe I'm going to have them brainstorm different kinds of sea animals. I'll bring this guy here. And one thing that I do want to tell you is when your students are working, anything that you don't want your students to be able to move on your screen, you're going to want to lock in place. So I did type the word sea animals. That's not something that I need my students to move around on my screen or change. I'll click on my arrow and I'm going to lock it in place. Next, I have this magic wand in my top right corner. And here's where I'm going to convert it into an activity. I can make it into an individual handout, which means everyone would get their own copy to work on. A group workspace will divvy them up into small groups, or a whole class whiteboard, which is kind of like what we did earlier. And now that activity is also ready. All right, I'm going to stop talking for a few minutes to let you guys all focus. And if you have any questions, please do put them in the chat. Good question, Stephanie. So when you are in your group workspace, when you're presenting your lesson, you click on group workspace, it'll actually make the groups for you, but then you have the ability to manipulate the group. So if you know that Kelly and Stephanie don't work well together, you can change those groups up. There is not a way to have the groups saved. Yep, in a whole class whiteboard, you can all move around each other's responses to make it look better, to be able to see everything. You got it, Mitzi. Okay, so if I'm going to edit this page here, instead of being a whole class whiteboard, maybe this was going to be a group activity. So I would go to group workspace. And then if I'm in presenter mode, it looks like I actually have 8 of you still logged in here. When I get to that group workspace page, it'll ask me how many teams I would like. Let's just say 4. And then it'll divide all the students that are logged into my lesson into groups. I now have the ability to move you guys around. So if I know that maybe Christina, and I don't want Andy with Christina, and I can move you guys around this way. And then when I click start, it'll divide you all into the groups. And so you'll each get your own worksheet to do, if that makes sense. And then I can open your workspace. So I can go in here and I can open to see how you guys are doing in here. A group workspace is kind of like a combination of an individual handout and a whole class whiteboard, because each group will get their own copy, but then each student can log in on their own to start working. Exactly. Yep. Each group will have one worksheet to collaborate on. All right. Before we close out here, if this is, again, one of your first few times learning with Lumio, one really great resource, and we're going to talk about all the resources in a moment, but one that I would really, really like for you all to consider is our ambassador community. Our ambassador community is a great place to come to ask questions, lots of different folks sharing resources. Lumio is constantly getting brand new features or feature updates, and our ambassadors get sneak peeks of those things. We're always sharing about our new webinars coming up and different resources. So remember a few minutes ago when I showed you how to get your teacher share link. I'm going to show you again right here. The game that you created or a graphic organizer, you're going to go to your 3 dots, share link, and grab your teacher share link. We're going to have you apply, if you'd like, to be in our ambassador platform, which is a great place to come to keep learning with Lumio. And one of the questions here is going to ask for something that you've created in Lumio. So that's why you need that teacher share link. You'll post your teacher share link right over here. The ambassador community is a great place to come to ask questions, to keep learning with Lumio, gain resources, and find out when there's new features coming out. So give everyone just a second here to fill that out if you're interested. If you're not, I'm going to hand it over to Kelly. If we don't have any other questions, Kelly's going to go over the other resources that we have, and I'll share my screen here for you, Kelly, and we will close out from there.
All righty. I saw somebody in here is from Bernie, Texas. I will be there next week for training, so I hope to see you in a session. All right.
Yes, Joanna, you can definitely sign up later. No pressure to do it right now. Just wanted to make sure I sent that over since we have this time together now.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing your insights with all of us today. I'm going to be pasting some things into the chat here in just a second for things that you guys can do next. So we would love to see some social sharing happening. So we would love if you could share what you learned from this session, share your thoughts on social media along with the graphic that I added at the beginning of the session. I'm also going to include it again in this last post. You're going to use that graphic, use hashtag Lumio Challenge, hashtag Lumio Palooza. And I'm also including some resources. So you're just going to click on the tiny URL and it'll take you to all of the Lumio Palooza resources that we have for this year. We do also have a Lumio promo going on. We have a summer promotion going on for you for Lumio Spark. Right now, the Lumio Spark plan is buy one, get one free. And you'll use that last link. You're going to share that with your administrator to take advantage of the offer. Follow-up resources and recordings will be coming to your inboxes early next week, so you can review any information that you missed or watch the sessions that you weren't able to attend live. Thank you for joining the Lumio Palooza session with Getting Started with Lumio. We hope to see you at a future webinar. And again, I just put all of that information I just said, it's in the chat now, so you have those links that you can click on.
And if you'd like to go back to today's session, you will receive a recording in a few days here. And also we are going to put the feedback form into the chat as well, but I also have it up on my screen. If anyone else has any other questions, we're going to stick around here to answer anything else that might come up. The ambassador application is in the chat. All those resource links are in the chat. And last but not least, we're going to get that survey form in the chat as well so that you can get your certificate as well.
All right, it is in the chat now. I apologize for that delay.
No worries. Trina, was the magnetism session early in the morning? There was a small glitch. It should be fixed now. Yep, that makes sense, Trina. So I'm putting an email address in the chat. And you can go ahead and send an email to them and let them know which session you attended and then it wasn't working. They know the ones from the morning weren't working, and they'll work on getting you that certificate for that session. All right, just a reminder, a few different things here in the chat for you. So if you scroll up, first was my link. That's the ambassador application if you're interested. Just a great place to come to have support with using Lumio. Kelly dropped a link for all of our resources as well as a social grab for you if you'd like to be entered to win a gift card. There's a promo code in there for our new Spark plan. Resources, a link to join for future webinars, and then the survey form which you'll need to do to get the certificate. The email that I just put in the chat is for any of you that attended a session this morning and there was a small glitch with the surveys. All right, any other questions, anyone, while we're still here? Anything else we can share with you?
We have a question for the, oh, you say it. Okay, good.
Yep, so all you'll do is you'll click on this new button. You'll go to import resource. And you see that you have import from my computer twice. And I'll tell you what the difference here is. If you want to bring in a PDF and you want to edit it, like move different things around, or immersive reader should work in there, you'll use this one, the one that says editable. If you're just bringing in a flat PDF and you don't need to change anything on the screen, you can just use this button. So you just click on import from my computer, and then you'll select that PDF and it'll populate into a Lumio file for you. Hey, like a worksheet that you have like on your computer, you can upload that the same way, and then you can make it a digital worksheet. Not on a computer. So if you have a scanner, you can scan it. There's also an app you can get on your phone that I love. It's called Genius Scan. And what'll happen is it will scan it for you and upload it to your computer as a PDF from there. Mitzi, in a few days when you get that recording of our session, they're also going to share out my Lumio teacher share link file. I'm so glad you were here, Mitzi. It's so fun to see a familiar name. All right, if no one else has any other questions, we're going to go ahead and close out the session. Thank you so much for being here late in the evening for some of you on the East Coast. I hope you have a great day and hope to see you back again tomorrow at Lumiopalooza Day 2. You are very welcome. Please reach out with any other questions. Thank you so much for being here, y'all. And thank you, Kelly, for your help today.
Absolutely.